What's up, Broncos country? Listen up, Denver Broncos family. I've got news that's going to hit you right in the heart. And it's not good news, folks. Picture this. Just hours before our season opener against the Tennessee Titans, what happens? We lose a fundamental piece of our defensive line. I'm talking about Malcolm Roach, people. And this isn't just any injury. It's one that's going to keep him out for at least 4 full weeks. Stay with me, because I'm going to break down all the details of this blow that caught Broncos country completely off guard. And look, you'll see that this situation is more serious than it appears on the surface. It has a direct impact on our defensive scheme, our roster depth, and could even change the face of our team in this crucial start to the season. Malcolm Roach didn't leave Thursday's practice by accident, folks. The guy was out there giving his all like he always does when suddenly he feels something in his calf. It wasn't anything dramatic, nothing spectacular, but you know how it is in football. Sometimes the most serious injuries come quietly, without fanfare. The diagnosis came quick and clear: grade 2 calf injury. For those who don't know, the medical classification, a grade 2 injury means there was partial tearing of the muscle fibers. This is no joke, family. That normally takes an athlete off the field for at least a month, and sometimes can extend even longer depending on how the body responds to treatment. And look at the timeline of events. Thursday, the injury happens in practice. Friday, he was already ruled out for Sunday's game, and Saturday came the final blow, straight to the short-term injured reserve. This shows that the Broncos organization didn't want to risk absolutely anything. Better to ensure the guy recovers 100% than force a premature return and complicate the situation even more. Now, for you to understand the size of the hole this opens in our defense, I'm going to explain who Malcolm Roach is to this team. The guy isn't a name that always makes headlines, but he's one of those players who does the dirty work, the essential work for the defense to function like a Swiss watch. Malcolm Roach is our run-stopping specialist. Those opposing running backs who try to punch through our defense up the middle. Well, Roach is the one there to close those gaps, occupy 2 blockers, and free up our linebackers to make tackles. It's work that doesn't show up much in individual stats, but is fundamental to collective success. The guy has 6 years of experience in the league, has been through different teams, learned various schemes, and came to Denver knowing exactly what his role was. It's no coincidence that he earned a spot in our starting lineup. Sean Payton and his coaching staff know how to recognize value when they see it, and Malcolm Roach represents exactly that: added value, consistency, and reliability. Do you remember some plays from last season where our defense managed to stop important runs on 3rd down? Or when we forced punts in critical situations? Well, Roach was there, doing his job, occupying space, bothering the opposing center, creating confusion in the enemy offensive line. Tell me, Broncos country, do you agree that these players who do the work in the trenches are as important as those who show up in the highlights? Because it's exactly this type of athlete who can make the difference between a mediocre defense and a defense that truly commands respect in the league. Now, let's get to the practical side of things. With Malcolm Roach out for at least 4 weeks, who's going to take on this responsibility? The Broncos organization didn't sit around waiting. They've already made some moves to try to soften this impact. First action was promoting inside linebacker Lavelle Bailey and fullback Adam Prentice to the active roster. This shows that the strategy will be to adapt the scheme, maybe use different formations, explore other tactical combinations to compensate for Roach's absence. But let's not kid ourselves, family. Adaptation is one thing. Direct replacement is something completely different. Malcolm Roach had developed chemistry with his line mates, knew the tendencies of the opponents we'd be facing, was completely integrated into the defensive system. That coordinator Vance Joseph planned for this season. Whoever takes over the position will need time to adapt, will make natural mistakes from the learning process, and that could be costly in games decided by details. We're talking about the NFL, people, where the margin for error is practically zero, where each snap can determine the final result. And there's another aspect that worries me, the depth of our roster at this position. With Roach out, our defensive line loses an important rotation option. This means other players will have to handle more snaps, will have less rest, and ultimately, this could impact the overall performance of the defensive unit, how it is in football. When a player gets overloaded, when they don't get adequate rest, performance drops, injury risk increases, and then the problem multiplies. It's a domino effect that could complicate our season if not managed well. If you're true Broncos country, subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss any part of our season. Because I'll be here tracking every move, every decision, every adaptation the team makes to overcome this adversity. Now, let's talk about recovery timeline, because this is fundamental to understanding when we can expect Malcolm Roach back. The organization put him on short-term injured reserve, which means he's out for at least 4 games. Depending on how his body responds to treatment, he could return as early as week 5. Doing the math here, if everything goes well, Malcolm Roach could be back for the game against the Philadelphia Eagles on October 5th. That would be an important addition to face a team that always gives trouble, that has a consistent offense, and will test our defense in every possible way. But listen, family calf injuries are tricky. The calf muscle is used in practically every movement in football. Running, changing direction, exploding off the line, stability to resist blocks, everything depends on a healthy calf. That's why the Broncos organization was conservative in their decision. Better to ensure Roach comes back completely recovered, with total confidence in his leg, than rush the return and create a much bigger problem. Have you seen cases of athletes who came back too early and ended up getting hurt even worse? Well, nobody wants that for our player, and there is an important detail. Calf injuries tend to recur if not treated properly. The muscle needs to recover. Not just strength, but also flexibility, coordination, confidence. It's a process that can't be accelerated beyond what the body allows. So even if Malcolm Roach feels better in 2 or 3 weeks, even if he wants to come back earlier, the medically and technical decision will probably be to keep him out for the full necessary time. It's a matter of preserving the athlete for the rest of the season, thinking long-term. Now, let's analyze the tactical impact this absence could generate. Sean Payton and Vance Joseph will have to rethink some defensive formations, adjust game, calls, maybe even change the philosophy of how to face certain types of offense. Malcolm Roach was an important piece in anti-run packages. Those third and short situations where everyone knows the opposing team is going to try to gain yards on the ground. Roach was there to complicate life for the enemy offensive line. Without him, we'll have to find other ways to apply that pressure. One possibility is using more linebackers on the line, creating pre-snap confusion, showing pressure from different places. Another option is rotating defensive ends inside more, using other players' versatility to compensate for Roach's specific absence. But every tactical adjustment has its consequences, family. If we put more linebackers on the line, we become more vulnerable to short passes. If we move defensive ends inside, it might open spaces on the edges. It's a chess game where every move has to be very well calculated. What worries me is that we're talking about the first games of the season, when teams are still adjusting, when chemistry is still being built. Having to make these adaptations right off the bat could complicate our defense's development process. And let's be honest, opponents study film, analyze tendencies, look for weak points. When they realize we're without Malcolm Roach, they might try to exploit exactly the situations where he made a difference. Runs up the middle, power attacks, short yardage situations. Tell me, Broncos country, what do you think coordinator Vance Joseph will do to compensate for this absence? Do you trust the depth of our defensive roster? Because this will be one of the first tests to show if we really have a competitive team or if we depend too much on specific players. One thing that encourages me is knowing that our organization isn't one to sit around lamenting. Sean Payton has already shown in other situations that he knows how to adapt quickly, that he has alternative plans, that he can get the best out of every available player. So even with this adversity, I'm confident we'll find solutions. And there's another aspect that could even be positive. This situation forces other players to take on responsibilities, to show what they're capable of. Sometimes it's in moments of adversity that new leaders emerge, that lesser-known players prove their worth. Who knows if we don't have someone on our roster who was waiting for an opportunity like this? Someone who studied, prepared, worked hard in practice, and now will have a chance to show their talent. These plot twists are part of the NFL's charm, family. The important thing now is to follow how the team will behave in the next games. See if our defense can maintain consistency, if the tactical adjustments will work, if other players will be able to fill the space left by Malcolm Roach. And look, we can't forget that this is a marathon, not a sprint. An NFL season has 17 regular season games, has playoffs, has many challenges ahead. Losing an important player in the first weeks isn't the end of the world, but it's a test of how our team responds to adversity. I'll be watching every detail, folks. I'll analyze how our defense performs without Malcolm Roach, which adjustments work, which don't work, what players step up to take responsibility, and you'll know everything here on the channel. The season is just beginning, family, and we already have our first adaptation challenge. But you know what this shows? It shows that football is a team sport, where everyone has to be ready to contribute when called upon. Malcolm Roach will come back stronger, our defense will adapt and grow from this experience, and Broncos country will be here supporting regardless of circumstances. Because that's what families do. They stick together in difficult times and celebrate together the victories that will come. So, Denver Broncos family, what do you think about this situation? Do you think our defense will be able to adapt quickly? Do you have confidence in the players who will take on greater responsibility? Comment below with your opinions. Hit that. If the content was helpful, share with other Broncos fans who need to stay informed about this important information. The season promises to be intense, full of emotions, and I'll be here with you following every play, every decision, every moment that could define our goals. Don't miss the next videos because there's a lot of good stuff coming. Until next time, Broncos country, and let's go Broncos!